It's 27 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine, Sunrise Daily. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Guaranteed, Maupe. Without the sun, I don't think there would be any daylight at all. Amaya Makinde, it's 31 degrees in Lagos despite the rains. Welcome to the show.
Guys, send some over to Abuja. We've been praying for the rains. I mean, the clouds gather, but the rains never fall. I do not know whether the situation is the same in Delta State, where we're going to. Unfortunately, the matter which we're starting with this morning, it's not a very sunny one. It has been discussed, perhaps, on our sister program, The Morning Brief, but we still believe that it's something that we need to highlight to let the Nigeria police that we're watching them. Today, the Nigeria police released a statement talking about how they assure justice as officer faces disciplinary action. A suspect, his name is Mene Ogidi, was fatally shot by another officer, ASP Nuhu Usman, who had apprehended the suspect alongside his team members. Now, while the suspect was apprehended, as you can see there, his hands firmly tied behind his back, his feet firmly tied as well. The allegation was that he had gone to obtain a parcel which had been way billed to Warri in Delta State, and the parcel contained a Beretta pistol, and he had been arrested after the alert had gone out by the union workers, the road transport union workers, who had alerted the police. This is a package that he received, and the police had come to the park to make sure that whoever came to claim that parcel was placed under arrest. And successfully, he was arrested, his hands tied, his legs tied. I don't want to say cuff, because we cannot see any handcuffs there. Clearly, he was no threat. And from what we understand from that video, he was also saying, oh, he's happy to take them to the people who sent him to pick up this particular package. But before he could finish that particular confession, so to speak, he was shot dead in cold blood by this particular police officer, ASP Nuhu Usman, who discharged his firearm, according to the police, in clear violation of extant regulations. Now, they are saying that the leadership of the Nigeria Police Force has directed the immediate transfer of the officer and his team to the force headquarters in Abuja, where they will face Force Disciplinary Committee for summary disciplinary measures and prosecution. The Inspector General says he extends his condolences to the family and assures them that justice will be served in accordance with the law. He's also telling police officers or members of the public to remain calm and law-abiding as disciplinary and legal processes take their course. According to them, they maintain a zero-tolerance stance on extrajudicial actions, abuse of authority, and any conduct that undermines public trust. This statement was signed by the new Force Public Relations Officer, DCP Anthony Okon-Placid. Now, big questions. This is a country that has seen a protest, NSAS protest, aimed at highlighting and trying to force the hand of the authorities to end police brutality. And this is it playing out in broad daylight. 6 years after, we're still talking about these incidences happening not within or behind the counters of the police station, but in broad daylight. A suspect already tied, looking like he posed no threat, and he was shot. The question is why? Very many questions to ask, but Ayo, I'm sure that you've seen this visual. I'm sure you are shocked as anyone else. Do you think that our Nigeria police will ever do anything differently?
Well, it's a question that we'll continue to ask, Maupe, until we see difference. It is a time, Maupe, you know, that we've been asking for state police for the longest time. And there are many people who are going to be asking questions, will it not be worse when we have state police? You mentioned the NSAS protest. NSAS, essentially saying that at the core of that protest was the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which was said to be one full of unlawful detention, extortion, excessive force on people, particularly younger Nigerians. And one would expect that, okay, maybe after that, so many things would have gotten better. Because before the NSAS protest, Amnesty International documented at least 82 cases of torture, ill treatment, and extrajudicial killings by SARS between 2017 and 2020. After that, the same Amnesty International has had to document several cases like that. I think even in August 2024, it documented more than 20 of such extrajudicial killings. And those are the ones that we are able to find reports to by sources or from sources like Amnesty International. How about those we may never see? If there was no social media, we probably never would have seen this video, as in many other cases, since the advent of technology. Now, I know that, in every pool of whatever, the former police PRO, Mr. Hunde, would often tell us, among every 12, there will be a Judas. Maybe that Judas is the fellow that we are talking about now that has been arrested, but that Judas should not be the one leading a team, because we expect that anyone who is leading a team is essentially showing the people following him what to do and how to do it. This also begs the question, Markwe, especially now that we are talking about state police and we have been raising questions about the recruitment process. If you pay peanuts, you will get monkeys, or vice versa. So whichever way we are going to look at this thing, I think we should be looking at it a lot more futuristically. SARS, the NSARS is relevant here because in the conversation our colleagues had with the police PRO in Delta State, he referenced that as well. SARS has been disbanded, but the mind of SARS, the heart of SARS, the disposition of SARS has not left the minds of some people. Maybe the question we should now be asking is, what next? What are the measures we hear? It would be good to find out really what informed this man's choice. Okay, maybe you thought he was an armed robber, but even in the days of Oyenusi, they had to be taken to court before they are bound and shot to death. But this one, this is intolerable. It's not the first. I really wish I can say it will be the last, but God knows, Malcolm. So we're waiting for how the police, particularly the CP in Lagos, the CP in Delta State, and the IGP's office is going to handle this, because right now, all eyes on the police, Markwe.
You couldn't have put it more succinctly. All eyes indeed on the Nigeria Police Force. Will this be a turning point or just another incident? Well, we'll wait to get the answer. Or we'll be looking at other matters when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Well, we're switching gears to politics now. As we very well know, 2026 is the political year, is the year before the elections in 2027. And yesterday we saw that the president, the news was agog with the fact that the president has now picked up a nomination form to run for a second term in office on the platform of his party. Well, clearly, he's not the only one doing so. There are also many other aspirants. And do not forget that prior to this time, sometime in February, a memo had come out asking would-be aspirants in the president's cabinet to throw in their resignation letters if they did want to throw their hats into whatever ring they deemed fit. Well, one of them was the president's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, who was aspiring, or who is aspiring to the governorship seat in Bauchi State. He is with us on the program this morning. Mr. Yusuf Tugar, thank you so much for speaking with us on your ambition this morning. I'm just a little curious as to what exactly has informed it. Some people will say you don't exactly fit the mold of somebody, of that typical politician who will want to. I don't even know that I see you as a politician, so to speak.
That is the mistake often made. When they hear air-conditioned English, they see me wearing a suit. They forget that I'm a grassroots politician who went into politics at the grassroots at a very rural agrarian constituency, went to the House of Representatives from there before eventually running for governor of the state in 2011 under CPC. I was with President Buhari all the way in AMPP, in CPC, and I was one of a small group of people that escorted President Muhammadu Buhari, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, BC Akonde, and others, including the likes of Lai Mohammed, back then, Hadi Sirika, Farouk Adamu Aliu, Mustafa Saliu, who's a senator now running for governor in Kwara State, to help solidify the building blocks of APC. We were quoting Rotimi Amechi in Rivers, Watai and Bukola Saraki in Kwara, Babangida Aliu in Niger, and Kwankwaso in Kano. And this is how the APC came about. And then I went back to my state to help create APC. I was one of two people that provided cameras for people to register all across Bauchi State. And then I was part of the interim committee as well. So I'm a grassroots politician.
You have been on the ground. Yeah.
I've been on the ground. I studied international relations. Yes. So when I was considered for a ministerial appointment under President Buhari, and somehow I was edged out, I think someone must have looked at my CV and said, send him out as ambassador. He studied international relations. So that's how I ended up as ambassador in Germany. And that's when I started wearing the suits. And then from there, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was kind enough to offer me the opportunity to serve as Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Does it feel a little different though? I mean, you have talked about how your journey in politics, your background as someone who has been in the grassroots. You've been in this, and you've not exactly been in parties that have been particularly popular, or popular to an extent, because I mean, we do know that the CPC, for instance, won a seat in Nasarawa State before President Buhari eventually became president. So yes, the CPC was relatively popular. Some people could ride on the popularity of late President Muhammadu Buhari in the north, but it didn't exactly hold sway. The PDP was such a monumental force across the length and breadth of the country. So would you say that the terrain has somewhat changed in terms of the expectations of the people and in terms of how the game of politics is played, even at the grassroots?
So CPC, in the case of Bauchi, was the party to beat. It was much stronger than the incumbent PDP. Buhari has always been a factor in Bauchi, as well as in many parts of northern Nigeria. But what happened then was, first of all, there was no card reader at the time. Secondly, a curfew was imposed after the presidential elections, where Buhari won overwhelmingly. So in my election, in the governorship election against Isai Guda, who was the incumbent PDP governor, a curfew was imposed using the excuse that there was violence in the presidential election.
So you were edged out, essentially?
Yeah. And apart from that, the election was postponed by 2 days. And that allowed for, other forces to be drawn in to concentrate on Bauchi and Kaduna, because these were the two states that had curfews imposed, elections are postponed. But APC still remains very popular. What is required is to explain to the people in a language that they understand, by people they trust, people like me, what the president has been doing, what he has delivered so far, and how he has empowered governors.
So we haven't quite gotten to the conversation of APC. You were telling me about CPC before you transited to, and you were trying to say that it was a popular party. So you were not on a fringe party, you were on a popular party, on a popular platform at the time, but you were edged out. That's what you.
Don't forget that in 2007, AMPP, and that was Buhari's party at the time, we had not moved out of AMPP with President Buhari to create CPC. AMPP swept most of the seats, overwhelmingly,
but
emphatically.
The question I'm asking is, would you say that the terrain has changed somewhat since you were last on the ground? Well, you maintain that you have always been on the ground, but I'm just wondering if anything has changed, because I mean you have been out quite a bit.
The terrain has changed in that I have also gotten national exposure. The people of Bauchi see me as a politician and office holder, representing them at the center and representing them very well. The fact that the portfolio that I held, even though it wasn't for awarding contracts and employing, thousands of people.
Well, that is a disadvantage to
in Nigerian politics, unfortunately, is a disadvantage, because people look at you and they think, okay, how much money does he have? What can I get from him? So, but that also meant that I was able to attract certain businesses, certain investments, and get exposure. Look, even when I was in Germany as ambassador, there was so much that we did, attracting investors or people that were prepared to support social services in Bauchi State. At the time, even though he was a PDP governor, he came over to Berlin. We organized for him. He signed several MOUs. We had people bring in funds to fix toilets in hospitals all across the state. We brought in mobility carts for the disabled. There was so much that took place. So
it's just that would not have, when it is executed, it certainly would not be done in your name.
Well, no. I have to say that the governor was gracious enough at the time to recognize that I was pivotal to it. In fact, I think it was a flyer or billboard or something was in the background, and when he spoke, he commended me. So you have to give him that. So there was no politics involved at the time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So here we are now. You have now firmly thrown you. I mean, you considered this ambition important enough to sacrifice certainty and say, well, I move into the terrain of the unknown, where it is not certain what the outcome will be. You were one of the very first, even though I would say, maybe I was not a very great watcher, but I would say I did not expect, it wasn't you I was looking at to throw your hat, to resign when that memo came out. You weren't one of those I was considering. It seemed like you were perfect where you were. But here it is, you have resigned, you have since stated your ambition very clearly. From what you say, you'll be picking up your forms later today, hopefully. What exactly do you hope to sell to the people of Bauchi? Because we do know that where we are right now, some people were to be fair in terms of how they assess things. They might say that the APC is not a particularly popular party in the north.
What's not a popular party?
Your party, the All Progressives Congress.
Au contraire, our party is a very popular party. A very popular party. It depends on at what level and who you are focusing on. So,
is it popular with the people?
It's popular.
Who are the people that are going to vote for you? Is it popular with
my people? My people that have been with me in AMPP, in CPC, and in APC. So you see, it depends on who you put up as a front man. If you put an unknown, someone that's new to politics, or someone that is associated with venality, or that people are not comfortable with, then it's unpopular. So it's up to the party now to decide if they put, because in my case, I'm the strongest politician running for governor today in Bauchi. So if you give me that opportunity and you put me in front, of course, APC is popular.
So essentially, the popularity of the party is going to be dependent on the person they front. That's what you're
Absolutely.
saying.
Absolutely.
But right now, the party by itself has no standing.
The party has strong standing in Bauchi State because the people are resentful of the incumbent and the PDP as things stand right now, because their lot has not improved. This is why APC is still the party to beat in Bauchi State.
At the federal level, I mean, and this is very easy for any governor to do, to say that the policies that only affect the people who are not done by him. The people, yes, might be discontent, but in terms of policies that directly emanate from him, I'm unclear as to how the people will hold him directly responsible for things that have come, say, from the federal government.
That is the responsibility of people like me, to explain it, and explain it in such a manner that the people will understand. But if you put someone as a front man to run for governor that does not understand that cannot explain it to the people, either because they're new to politics or, they don't fully understand. You see, I was part of the implementation of the programs. I was a member of the Federal Executive Council, so I know the president's vision and mission. I understand what he was trying to achieve and what he has achieved. So it's a matter of explaining it so that the common man and woman understand what he was doing. So you can't just say, oh, he removed subsidy, and then there was hardship. No. That freed up a lot of funds that were allocated to governors, to the states to deliver. So he's done his part. A lot of the things that the president or the federal government are blamed for are actually interventions because of the failure of local government, because of the failure of state governments. If you look at universal basic education, if you look at Schedule 4 of the Constitution, that's under the purview of local governments, not the federal government. If you look at national primary health care, primary health care is under the purview of state and local governments, not federal government. If you look at the regional economic development commissions, that's another intervention which should have a sunset clause. It's not the responsibility of federal government to be delivering primary schools, primary health care, to be dealing with local sewage, refuse collection, local infrastructure. That's all local governments and state governments. But you have to, of course, the president cannot sit by and wait and see Nigerians suffering. So there's a need to understand that and explain it in the language that the common man and woman would understand. And then, then we get the votes. The same way that we explained it in 2023, and in my constituency, I delivered my House of Representatives member, I delivered State House of Assembly member. So this is where it stands.
I know that, so many more questions on my lips, but Ayo will certainly pinch me if I don't take this conversation to him. So what do you know, Ayo?
Well, good thing you got the memo. Well, Excellency, it's in order, having been an ambassador. Let me start from a soft note. Your state is 50 years old, having been created in 1976. 50 years, this year, 2026. First of all, you want to give us an idea, first of all, how does that make you feel? And what would you say have been the progression of the state, and maybe even the shortcomings that the state has had over the years?
Very much. Yes, it was created in 1976 with Bello Khaliel as the first governor. We made significant progress because Bauchi has always been a center learning, going back in history. So we had a lot of educated people. We also had the foundations of a good educational system. One of the prominent secondary schools in northern Nigeria was there. So Tafawa Balewa, the first prime minister, was the headmaster there. Aminu Kano was one of the teachers there. Yahaya Wusa was another teacher. You had the late Saad Zungur, who had back problems and had returned to Bauchi from being the general secretary of the NCNC, along with Zik and Herbert Macaulay. So we had sensitization, and we had a lot of, Bauchi produced a lot of prominent educated individuals. I see a clip of Ibrahim Tahir going making the rounds, Sulekata Womb, and so on and so forth. So that enabled us to make rapid progress in terms of infrastructure, in terms of rural development. You had rapid development also under Tatari Ali, 1979 to 83, and several military administrators at the time also that contributed a lot. Ahmed Muazu, who was a quantity surveyor, understood, local and rural development. He enjoyed being a quantity surveyor. He enjoyed going around and inspecting ongoing projects, arguing with contractors. How much concrete have you put here? He could do the measurements and everything. So we made a lot of progress. But then we started to deviate to a certain extent, because then it was more about borrowing funds, it was more about the politics, it was more focusing on the politics that was going on at the center than what was going on back home in Bauchi. Then we also had the issue of land use and the excising of land from farmers from cattle herders.
I beg to interject you, sir, but what then would you do different? Because a good number of people have argued that in recent time, the challenges of governance, particularly in the north, is really, really concerning. You said that there's growing discontent against the current governor, and that everyone who wants to be governor of a state will say that about the incumbents. I mean, you want to not make the person not look so good, so that people will say that, okay, he also identifies with us, and then he's going to solve our problem. So what are you going to do differently that's going to make any significant, if not, revolutionary difference for what is going on now? What's your understanding of what the challenges are? Because you would agree with me that a good number of the issues Nigerians are dealing with in various states in the country were not born by the people, were not caused by the people who are incumbent. They've been there over the years. So what will you do different as governor of the state? We'll come back to whether or not you get a ticket or how you're going to get it and how you were able to mobilize those numbers later. But what will you do different? What is the understanding of governance that the people need to get a window so that they can partner with you as you govern them?
So I'm not just trying to bashing the incumbent. No, that's not what I'm trying to do. I have a plan. You asked me a question about what happened from 1976. So I was trying to take you on a short excursion, but I always come prepared. We have the Bauchi Agricultural Transformation Plan, and we would create an agency that would deal with a lot of the issues. It's fairly detailed. We have something similar that we're doing for solid minerals and solid minerals processing, because Bauchi is rich in that. So it's not just a matter of the way I play politics. I'm not looking simply to bash incumbents or blame others. I try to prefer solutions, and if given the opportunity, I will implement. It's not just about even coming up with statistics and reeling them out. No. It is a comprehensive plan. This is how we're going to do it, and this is where we're going to source the funds. This is what I did in 2011, and this is what we intend to do this time around as well.
Okay. Well, the first hurdle will be how you're going to get the ticket. There are quite a number of contenders, both those who are interested and those who are not interested, but then people are rooting for them. And maybe you want to add to that as soon as you answer that one. How are you able to marshal such a crowd in Bauchi State? Bauchi State, of all places, in the light of, irrespective of all of the conversations that's been going on about insecurity and all of that in the state. So those two questions, if you don't mind taking them together.
So the last one, because the first one I didn't quite, you may have to repeat it. How we can marshal, we were able to marshal such a crowd. As I said, I have been in the popular parties of the state, AMPP, along with President Muhammadu Buhari. That's how I went to the House of Representatives. And then I followed President Muhammadu Buhari to create the CPC, both nationally and at the state level. This under CPC I ran for governor. Then I was one of the key people that participated in bringing together other political parties to create the APC. And if you look at the declaration, you will see that I was flanked by the AMPP State Chairman, Sani Malam, CPC State Chairman, Shehu Badawiningi, and former APC State Chairman and founding Chairman, Ubanana, who is the Director General of my campaign as things stand right now. So you can see that I have carried along people that I've interacted with in politics and maintained a cordial relationship. And these are the sort of people that understand what has been happening. They understand the journey of politics. And sadly, what tends to happen is that the people that have supported these parties have remained in opposition in Bauchi State all the while, because they tend to be shortchanged when it's their time to enjoy the governance of their party. If you look at what happened in 2007 when we swept the elections under AMPP, unfortunately, the governor changed parties. He moved from AMPP to PDP. There were a few of us that in elective positions that remained steadfast and felt that moving would be a betrayal of the people.
Okay.
Then we had the situation in 2015 where we swept the state again, but then the party lost elections in 2019. Again, the party committed harakiri, committed suicide by anti-party activities. So the people are still sentimental about these things, and of course, they know me, they see me. I'm one of the few people that campaigned ward. In fact, I'm the only governorship candidate that has ever campaigned ward by ward.
Wow.
212 wards in Bauchi State. I went to 210, I think it was. Sorry, 200, yeah.
All right.
210.
So, perhaps another
local governments.
Yeah, the first question that you wanted wanted me to repeat is, yeah, I mean, from what you've said, you're popular with the people. How about with other contenders, other candidates who want to be APC governors in Bauchi State as well? How are you going to get the ticket? I mean, I think Marco was trying to reference that earlier.
So long as it doesn't get narrowed down to who has the fattest bank account, I think I'll be good. If the process is allowed to be free and fair, if it is going to be decided by a direct primary, or if the party decides to evaluate us based on our credentials, based on experience, then I think it's going to be me. But if other factors, unforeseen factors, come into play, then that's different. So all we're doing is urging the party to ensure fairness, to ensure equity, and to evaluate the candidates based on experience, based on performance, because we must not allow governorship positions, office of a governor, to simply be a way of just hiding, running, for seeking the cover of immunity. And so once we turn it into a money thing, then we're going to be attracting all sorts of people that
Are you
really
suggesting that your contenders, your fellow contenders, are people of shady character who might just be seeking this for immunity purposes?
No, I'm not. I'm speaking generally for Nigeria, as a Nigerian citizen, to say that we should not do that. So not just in Bauchi, but in all states.
But what method would you prefer the most? Would you prefer consensus, or would you prefer?
Either one is fine by me, so long as there is a credible criteria and we abide by it. I think I'm good. If it is
yeah, but the consensus is pretty tricky. I've always asked that question: how do they arrive at a consensus candidate? It can be tricky.
We should also not just simply, because sometimes you see, if you say okay, it's going to be direct primaries. Mind you, I'm fine with direct primaries, but at the same time, you may have certain states, it doesn't necessarily have to be Bauchi, where people would just jump in and you don't know the source of funds, and people are hungry. People are hungry.
You admit that?
Yeah.
You admit that, and yes, you say your party has been successful, yet you say that...
Yeah, but my party is not running Bauchi, for instance. We're opposition in Bauchi.
It might not be running Bauchi, but it's certainly running the federal government.
It is,
and
yes.
the federal government certainly has a responsibility to all citizens of this country.
Indeed, but I took you through the interventions of federal government and the fact that it's not really the responsibility of the federal government. So part of the hunger is being felt because of maladministration at the local level, at the state level. And that's why I'm running for governor.
Are you saying that they are not hungry in the states where the APC is in governorship position?
Our governors are trying to fix it.
Yeah, but people remain hungry.
Yes, it's something that has been happening for quite a long period of time.
How do you think
it takes time to
that changes the face of politics, especially as we go into the 2027 elections?
How, what changes the face of politics?
Issue of hunger, which you have raised, how do you think it changes the face of politics? Because you have just expressed the fear that somebody can jump in from nowhere as long as the person has the funds. That could tilt.
Simply to get the cover of immunity. Yeah.
That can happen.
So I'm talking about the governorship position.
Yes.
Because it's a governorship position that has that immunity. So you have...
The governorship has it, so does the president.
Yes, but the president, so far we have not had a president who has come simply to become president to get immunity, because there are several other portfolios that they could run for. They could run for governor, so it's easier to run for governor than to run for president. And the current president that we have has already been a governor. He was out of public office for a very lengthy period of time. He wasn't scared of that, but it was his ambition to run for president. And he ran for president as an experienced politician.
Well, Ambassador, we can only say that we wish you the best. We look forward, we believe that you'll be letting the media know when you're going to pick up your form, which the cost of which a lot of people will say is prohibitive. I mean, these days, the amount that political parties sell their forms for is such that excludes, rather than includes people to, pick up forms to contest.
So long as it's the forms they're selling and not the office of governorship, I'm fine with that.
You don't think it amounts to it? Well, We have to say thank you so much for speaking with us, and we wish you all the very best in Bishop. We hope to catch up with you after the primaries, or perhaps even before the primaries, and after the primaries. And if you're successful, we believe that we will get more conversations around what you intend to do for the people of Bauchi. Thank you for speaking with us. Ambassador Yusuf Tugar is the APC governorship, one of the APC governorship aspirants, I should say, for Bauchi State. Thank you once more. Well, we'll take a break at this time. When we come back, we'll still be talking about politics, especially as it emanates. You did hear Ambassador talk about fairness, and one of the things that is coming to the fore is this issue of direct primaries or consensus. Which way will it be, and how are the parties deciding which one they will eventually settle for? Is it going to be a case-by-case basis? We'll be looking at that when we come back from this break. Please stay with us. Honorable Farouk Aliyu joins us now. He's a former minority leader in the House of Representatives and also a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress. And we're talking about this issue of zoning and whether or not, how the party eventually decides what method it uses to pick its candidates in different states. Honorable, it's good to see you in our Kano studios this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure that you have been following up very strongly on the different issues that are coming up in different states. For instance, Kwara, which is bringing issue of zoning to the fore. Would you say that your party has taken a critical look at the roadblocks it could have ahead of the 2027 elections, particularly with how it manages internal wranglings in the party as candidates emerge?
Good morning, Markway. Yes, thank you very much for having me as well. Well, yes, different states, different issues, different problems, and different solutions. Yes, we've looked at that, and in the wisdom of the members of National Assembly, the Electoral Act that was passed, either consensus or through direct primaries. So, in most cases, like in each state of the Federation, this from last Friday, today, and tomorrow, we've been having what's called stakeholders meetings, where stakeholders are called and explained to that, look, let's go in as peaceful as possible, and let's try to see how we can do this thing through consensus. Yeah, there could be contention, certainly, but then the party also has come up with a solution. The solution is, you will, by the time you agree to buy the form, you will have accepted the general notion, which is consensus, because that's what we virtually have agreed, because it will bring less rancor, where you will agree that if you're a party member, and then you know who is who, you know who is stronger, you know your worth, and so on and so forth. And in states like Kwara, where you said zoning, it's not only in Kwara, in so many other states also they have these kind of issues. But then you look at numbers, you could zone a position just because of zoning, and that place you zone, they'll have the numbers. If they don't have the numbers, it's part of the things we're looking. We will try to convince people that, look, yes, we know, but first we need to win the election. So how do we win the election? So let's go where the numbers are. So it's part of what we're thinking about.
Oh, it's pretty tricky, as you were given the instances, my head was playing the different examples, because the idea around zoning is to ensure fairness, to ensure inclusion, to ensure equity. And one would imagine that if you say that candidates or aspirants are only going to come from a certain area, then it should behove on every other party member from every other part of the state to support the particular candidate. So how does the issue of numbers come into the fore when you're talking about zoning?
Yeah, because now supposing you zone a position where the people are less. So just for zoning's sake, you need to win the election first. So members of the party need to understand that, yes, there is need for zoning. Yes, zoning is necessary. But let me give you an example like of Kwara State, no, not Kwara. I think it was Kogi, where they decided in their wisdom of our leaders there a position of a particular senator, which the zone, it was supposed to go to one zone, but they decided to put it where the numbers are there. And we want the election. So these are factors that we're going to look at. Irrespective of zoning, certainly to win the election is beyond zoning, because you zone and you lose the election. What's the purpose? So we call on our members to be truthful, to understand that, look, yes, in some cases there could be zone. And then look, also there are times where even in the areas where they have less numbers, when the candidate is popular, the party will try to convince members from the areas that have numbers that, look, we have candidate A who is very popular in the state, so please vote for him. So we are going to look at those kind of things to ensure fairness. But winning the election is the principal things we're looking at.
Consensus is a little more tricky. We've seen in Lagos State, for instance, where a deputy governor, some people say it's a natural thing that should happen. A deputy governor could rise to become governor. He has the clout, etc., etc. And we saw yesterday the General Advisory Council, or the Governor's Advisory Council, I'm not trying to make out what the G is, in the GAC, endorsing...
Advisory Council.
Thank you for that. Endorsing the ambitions of the current deputy governor, Dr. Bafemi Hamzat. And we've seen him over the last couple of weeks, going out to consult different stakeholders within the party to seek their endorsement. And to a large extent, he's been given. Now, that has been pretty clear-cut. Now, in other states, where it's also... So, for instance, in Bauchi, we just finished speaking with the former Foreign Affairs Minister, who is saying, well, he's also open to the idea of consensus, but only if it's going to be done according to their qualifications, their advancements, what they have on the ground, not according to their pockets. So when you speak about strength, what precisely are you talking about?
Well, we are going to look at pedigree, of course, qualification, and then acceptance to the people. So those are factors. And then we have a form that was designed in every state. Like I'm from Jigawa State. We have a form where before you go into the race, you would have agreed that, look, consensus should be our number one thing. And if you have agreed and signed to that memo of being consensus, so whatever is agreed, you're absolutely bound to do that. That is why the place is open for everybody. If you want, go and buy your form, but know from the beginning that consensus is the first thing we will do. And wherever consensus is not agreed, then we'll go for direct primaries. But then remember, direct primaries is just like general election. Virtually, I don't think anybody has money for that kind of, thing. You need support of the party. So I am sure the members will understand that going through consensus is the best. And that's what we're trying to encourage. And we call on the members across the country to accept this consensus issue.
How do you achieve that in a way that is fair, and it seems to be fair by all? Some people say, well, maybe this removal of indirect primaries was shooting the parties in the foot, because it appears not just your party that's going to be facing this conundrum. But how do you ensure that if you decide to go with consensus, as you are now saying that you've decided that members will have, when they're going to purchase their forms, they'll have to sign that they agree to this issue of consensus, or to this clause of consensus. How do you intend to ensure that it is fair and seen to be fair by all the candidates, all the aspirants concerned?
Well, first of all, there is no question. It's just a form to be signed. If you still do not accept, you can ask for direct primaries. Really, that's it. But then if you sign to have agreed to consensus, and the general consensus is not you, and you still want to go for direct primaries, you are going to face Herculean task, because most of the stakeholders have agreed to candidate A, and while you said no, which means when you go for that primary election, the chances are you're not to win. So that's it. And in the wisdom of the members of National Assembly, I don't know why they did what they did, but also, in this country when there was indirect primaries, where members of the party, the executive of the party, collect money across parties to endorse someone that is probably not the right person. But now when you decide to go through consensus, let me give you an example of Jigawa State. Now what we decided, each local government has a committee. Like I'm leading the committee of my state, of my local government, Birnunku local government, with about 30, 40 members, leaders, who will sit with these members, go through their qualification, go through their pedigree and acceptability. And then we will advise that, look, we think you should step down for A, and so on and so forth. And if you do not agree, then you go over to the state. And there also they will try to convince. If you still don't agree, then you go for the direct primaries, which I told you is very expensive. So that is the wisdom behind what we in APC are doing now.
Just one question that if I can quickly put it in, Honorable. We understand that some members of the APC in Delta State, those who consider themselves older members of the APC in Delta State, are already, agitated, sort of, protesting that most of the structures in the APC in Delta State have been taken up by the defectors, and they are currently, of course, naturally raising issues about that. So I think that supports in some way the question that Malkwa is asking about what if there is opposition to this whole consensus thing. For instance, in the case in the states where so many governors have come in with their people, with their own structures and all, into the APC, there are questions as to how the consensus candidature is going to be received by them in a way that will insulate or still maintain or retain the peace within the party, because some people right now think that peace is fragile.
That's true. Ayo, let me just borrow from Mokwe. It's very tricky, really. In most of the states, virtually all the states where we have governors came in from other parties, yes, there are challenges. Most original members of APC are not happy. Yeah, that's true. But then we have also agreed as leaders of the party that any governor that is coming will take 60% of the structure. That's the leadership of the party. But when it comes to the candidature, now a governor is not going to decide who becomes the candidate. It will still go through the leaders, the stakeholders at various levels, where you have combination of the defectors and the original members. So I'm sure in Delta State it's the same thing. And I am sure, because even if they try to deviate from that, the national headquarters of the party will wield the big stick that, look, you have to go through the right process. And no governor in this country, in APC, has been given everything that you should go and do whatever you like. No, you have to do it in conjunction with the stakeholders. So it is not the winner takes all. No, certainly no.
Well, I'm pretty sure that we're going to call you, we'll have another conversation with you on this matter, Honorable, because what if in some cases, for instance, the 60-40 arrangement you talked about is not upheld? What if the powers that be, so to speak, decide that, we're going to take more than is assigned to us? As I said, we're going to have this conversation with you maybe sometime after the primaries, when all candidates have been selected and whatever issues have been dealt with. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Honorable Farouk Aliyu is a former minority leader, House of Representatives, as well as an APC chieftain. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
That's the show today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning. Business Morning is on the hour. I'm Ayo Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Amalpe Ogun Yusuf, do have a productive day.